Thank you. Again, it's a privilege and an honor to be here, and again to welcome you to the final day of our premier event. The last few days have been a wonderful success, a lot of partnering and exhibits visited throughout the halls, and we greatly appreciate your attendance. You know, each of you are sitting next to somebody who make up some of the most important people in the state of Ohio. Men and women who are entrusted to find, explore for oil and natural gas. And because of your effort to provide much needed energy for our country and to this state that benefit the folks. And I promise you that the Ohio Oil and Gas Association will continue to ensure that our industry is, first of all, understood. And secondly, that all of you are not denied access to opportunity. Now, those of you who don't know, and maybe who haven't met, our recently elected, newly elected, Executive Vice President. If you haven't had a chance to meet with him, please do so. And I'd like for Matt Hammond to stand. Matt? I first met Matt when I served in the legislature, and he was a legislative aide for one of our representatives, and he was very, very effective, and we're very proud to have him. So with that, please enjoy your day, and Mr. Jim Halloran.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Vice President, PNC Wealth Management, Ohio Oil and Gas Association Board of Trustees member, and serving as moderator for this morning's business session, James Halloran.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Friday morning session. I want to put in something just parenthetically. I want to thank the staff for the way things have been going in this particular session. I think they've done a tremendous job. And I think the session's gone very well, and I think they need another round of applause this morning if we could get that. Now for this morning's session, just a quick safety minute. In case of emergency, please exit the doors to the rear, turn right, and walking down straight ahead to the exit of the building you can muster, point in front of the parking deck. Also, please silence your cell phones if you would. First on the stage this morning is Ron Whitmire and Diana Hoff, on behalf of the team at the Ohio Oil and Gas and Energy Education Program, which is celebrating its 20th year this year. Ron Whitmire is Senior Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer for Enervest Limited, with responsibility for government and public affairs, corporate communications, and office facilities. He received a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Public Relations in 1989 from the University of Oklahoma. He currently serves as Communications Committee Chairman and Board Member of the IPAA and Chairman and Operating Committee member of OOGEEP. Diana Hoff has served as Vice President of Operations for Antero since June 2017. Prior to joining Antero, Mrs. Hoff was founder and CEO for the Unconventional Group from 2015 to 2017, focusing on consulting to international companies implementing unconventional developments outside of North America. Ms. Hoff holds a BS in Petroleum Engineering from Marietta College. Ms. Hoff currently serves as Operating Committee member of the OOGEEP as well. Please welcome them to the podium this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out to this first session of the day. As mentioned, we are 20 years old this year, and when we started way back 20 years ago, it was specifically for education purposes, getting in the classrooms. And then fast forward to 2007, OOGEEP got its first full-time staff members, and the program started to grow. And so from those initial classroom efforts, we now are in STEM teacher workshops. They're sold out. Geology teacher workshops, those are new. Those are sold out every year. Industry safety training, firefighter training, scholarships, science fair, scouting programs, economic impact studies. Go back and look at the economic impact study that OOGEEP conducted before the first shale well was drilled, and then look at the data and see how accurate it was. And thanks to many of you in the room who served on that to get all that data put together. We also have guest speaker programs, fact sheets, social media, press releases, media relations, a new program on workforce development. If you go on the website, you can look at any job that you can have in our industry. There's a description of it, and there's also local colleges, universities, VOTEX, where you can go get the training to take that job. Rhonda's going to correct me, it's 74 different jobs that you can have in our industry that we've got descriptions on and videos. We partnered with the American Petroleum Institute to put those videos together. We've provided the workforce development book to all the members of the Ohio congressional delegation. That was very well received by them. We also have local and statewide community events and numerous special events throughout the state. So with that, let me click over to a brief video to explain some more of this. As the slide says there, thank you for your support. Without you all being contributors to this program, we wouldn't be able to do any of these things. What we found throughout the years with these programs is we have non-traditional allies now, teachers, firefighters, and people across the state, scouts, students, who otherwise would not have been exposed to our industry. And here's the group of volunteers who does most of the work. You can see the names of all the board members, our newly expanded board. I'm not going to read them all off to you. You can see them. I'd like to especially point out that, though, at the bottom, the Foundation and Scholarship Committee, Frank Gonzalez and John Kramer. This committee goes through hundreds of applications every year and gives out 50 scholarships, and it's a very difficult task to winnow those applications down to the most deserving 50. And that's a great problem to have for us, and we like watching our scholarship winners over the years come back into our into our industry. Earlier this year, as all of you know, the board of OOGEEP almost doubled. We added 6 new members from the shale community, and we decided the best way to move forward was to get the group together and have a 2-day workshop with an outside facilitator. And for me, it was very interesting to be a participant in it and also to watch. At the end of the second day, the facilitator came over to me and said, "Okay, I have to ask because I can't figure it out. Who are the members who are new to this board?" And when I pointed them out to her, she shook her head and said, "None of those are the people I would have guessed." And that was an example of how we got together on days 1 and 2. We clicked immediately. We started with, as Diana said, about this many things, and we narrowed it down to a very focused effort going forward. And I'm particularly proud of the effort that the group made there. I also want to point out that, you know, as the board, we often get to stand up here and talk about all the accomplishments and things that get done, but we all know that the reason these things get done are the folks who are sitting in the back of the room, except for one standing. So I'd like for Rhonda and Charlie and Ann and Catherine to stand up. And please join me in thanking them for what they've done for us over the last 20 years. Not only have I never met anyone who doesn't like them, but they all have glowing things to say about this staff. 4 people responsible for all the things that you saw in the video, and it's amazingly impressive. And before I turn it over to Diana, I'd also like to say thanks to my colleagues at Intervest for letting me fly in from Texas and participate in this Ohio program. I really appreciate y'all letting me do that. And with that, Diana.
Good morning, everyone. As I said in the intro, I graduated from Marietta back in 1987, and it was a time very similar to what's happened in the industry since 2014. I think at one point there were 2 of us out of a class of about 40 who had jobs, and there were very few of those jobs that were local at that time. So, you know, I'm someone who grew up in Parkersburg, just across the river, and if I had known it would take me 30 years to get back and work in this area, I don't know if I would have stayed with that career choice. And so that's one reason to me that workforce development is really important, and that's the piece of our organization's work that I'm going to talk about. And I think it's not just important in terms of, you know, good jobs, well-paying jobs locally. I think it also is important because it truly integrates us into the community. I've worked a lot of the U.S. states, particularly in the West, in my career, and workforce development is the one element that I've personally seen that moves people from the neutral middle, you know, when they're not for us and they're not against us, to be actively for us. You know, when their sons and daughters and their neighbors are working in the industry, they tend to have a much more positive view of it. You know, and along with that, I think that really supports why we do a lot of the safety training we do as well, because, you know, if we bring them in and they become part of our family and then they're injured, you know, obviously that's not the impression we want to leave with folks. Workforce development, it takes time. OOGEEP started the efforts on this about 6 years ago, and they came up with this oil and gas career guide that Ron spoke about that has 75 different careers. And then after they did that, somebody asked a really good question, which is, hey, we have this list, how's the training for that? How's the education for that? And so then OOGEEP did basically what I'd call a gap analysis and went through and identified, where there were opportunities to get better on training and educational support. And from that, the organization now works with more than 70 different colleges and universities on training educational workforce needs, which is pretty impressive. One of the things in my short time with OOGEEP that's really been impressive to me is how open they are to bringing in resources from other areas. And I know they've worked with states as far away as New Mexico who have some, skills and areas that we needed to develop here. And so they brought them in to help us develop that local training. I also know that OOGEEP has been very generous in sharing what they know with other states who are further behind us. Over the last 3 years, OOGEEP's done a lot of work on creating a career video series that highlights all these different roles you can have in oil and gas. We've had financial assistance from API for that, and the videos were filmed at more than 50 different work sites. And so we'd like to thank all the companies that helped us with that over the last 3 years as we worked on it. And you might say, well, why are we spending time putting videos together? Well, if you haven't noticed, that's kind of what the younger folks these days, that's how they think. They don't read newspapers. They don't watch TV news like we all grew up with. So this full series is going to be posted on our website, and we're also going to push it out through social media. That's the other way to reach these younger folks. So what I'd like to show you now is an example of basically a highlight film of this career video series that's coming out. So I hope you enjoy this.
And that brings us to our pipeline award. And I have to say that it's the highlight of my morning to be able to talk about this and talk about how privileged I've been to serve on this board with Marty Miller for a long time. And watching Marty in his understated way before the shale community came to Ohio, before any of us could spell Utica, Marty made safety the most important issue for all of us. And it was a pretty simple saying. Everybody goes home at the end of the day. And you caught a glimpse of a safety trailer in the previous video, Marty. On behalf of all of us, he single-handedly made sure that we all had the resources that we needed on the off event that something bad happened. And his leadership in that area has benefited all of us. You can see the list of the previous recipients of this award, and it's just really my pleasure and my privilege to invite Marty and Lorraine up to the stage to accept this year's Pipeline Award.
Thank you, Ron. It's great to see everybody. You know, I've been very fortunate to have been able to work for and along with many bright and very highly qualified people for almost 42 years now. I was lucky enough to have been given opportunities in my working career to make decisions and to go down paths that brought success to the companies that I worked for and many of the organizations that I was privileged to be a part of. A number of people really need to be thanked for giving me those opportunities. All my hard-working hands in Marietta, I count on them folks, and they've never let me down. To John Miller and Doris Silvis and Tom Wright at Alliance Petroleum, they were instrumental in giving Marty Miller a chance to have purpose and meaning to what I love to do, love to work at. To Rhonda and the OOGEEP staff and all the board members that I was very privileged to be a part of. OOGEEP is one of the, by far, the brightest points in my career. It's said that education begins with awareness. Safety awareness that's been so adequately provided to almost over 2,600 participants now by OOGEEP and our very qualified staff, that may have helped someone to go home safe and be with their family at the end of the day after a hard day's work in the oil field. And that is something that I'm very proud of. Finally, I want to thank one more person. My wife, Lorraine. She has allowed me to pursue my life's work unimpeded. She's spent days and nights without her husband while he was out on some well site. She's cleaned up a lot of oily, muddy clothes and boots, and she fed and comforted a tired, hungry man when he came home. Without that, I'd have never had a chance. Thank you, Lorraine. And thank you, everyone. You're all my friends, and I believe this is the greatest industry in the world. Thank you.
Marty, thank you for your leadership, your friendship, for swapping stories about quail hunting over the years. I've really enjoyed it. We can give 5 minutes back to the program, or if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to try to answer them. Yes, sir? The question, if you couldn't hear it, was the gentleman was a Boy Scout, and our video went too quickly over it for him to determine what they were doing and how long would it take before we could make that a merit badge. In reverse order, it already is an engineering badge. And we developed that program through a grant that we received. It was initially at one camp. Rhonda, is it a 3-week? Beg your pardon, 6-week program. And essentially what they have to do is build a pipeline with lots of different elevations and right angles, and they have to get a golf ball from point A to point B to get their badge. We're now in 2 additional camps. I'm trying to export it to Texas to see if we can't get it going on down the road. But it's an excellent program and another way that we're able to reach out to the next generation and teach them about the importance of our industry. Does that answer your question, sir? Thank you for the question. Any other questions that anybody might have? Last thing, the workforce development. That's not a static situation. As we all know, technology changes in this industry almost daily. And so we already have more jobs to add, drone pilots, et cetera. So again, thank you very much for getting up this morning and coming to join us. And I'll close with, again, Marty, thank you.